What a great day to have an unknown YouTube channel about SpongeBob. I wonder how the analytics are doing. Oh, sweet Neptune. Hey, so, you guys really enjoyed that SpongeBob Iceberg video, it seems. First and foremost, I've got a short intro segment, but if you'd rather have the iceberg, then skip to this timestamp. Okay, now that they're gone, we can get a little bit more intimate. That single iceberg video absolutely exploded my channel. Thank you all for the amazing support and feedback. I've looked a lot at the comments you guys left and taken away about 3 main pieces of feedback. Number 1, do not anger the Jimmy Neutron or Flapjack community. Number 2, vague entries suck and as such have been mainly eliminated. Number 3, I'd just like to clarify that any insults or jokes making fun of something are for entertainment. I promise you I do not hate anything I talk about here. It just seems like I struggle with clarifying what's a joke and what isn't. I don't want any hostilities or anything. Maybe except for Jimmy Neutron. So blah 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 iceberg stuff. I've also included a segment talking about entries I missed from the previous video. Hope you enjoy. Out of all the feedback comments I received, the number 1 largest type was relating to the SpongeBob Rehydrated short. I somehow talked about the clip earlier in my video, but I just did not connect that the later entry with the same name is also referring to the earlier one. My bad, as all of those comments have pointed out, this Matrix-styled short's official audio has never been located. The best we have is different re-uploads featuring different music, so I've also made my own rendition for you. Mr. Krabs' parents being dead. In the Season 3 episode Clams, once Mr. Krabs gets his $1,000th dollar, in a deleted scene he would have ran to a phone in the Krusty Krab and called up his parents to celebrate his success. We would then cut to both their graves as they congratulated him.
Very dirty dollar.
No! This is my $1,000,000th dollar earned!
Every crab's goal in life is to make $1 million, and now I got mine! Mom, Dad, I've finally done it! I've made me $1,000,000th dollar! That's great, son!
Probably cut for being way too dark. As one commenter noted, this would also likely cause a retcon as we later see Krabs' mother in other episodes. Gary being milked. It's somehow real. In the episode New Digs, at one point SpongeBob is trying to fall asleep fast. He tries to drink warm snail milk, ew, which eventually works as he passes out. Turns out there was originally going to be a scene of Gary getting milked, or we just get to see the aftermath of it. Very lovely. Thankfully, to my knowledge, no such visual exists at all, as this was only featured in the audio commentary for the episode.
Snail milk. And that's what we're missing here is the actual milking of the snail.
We toned that down, didn't we?
From Gary, yeah.
Such a shame.
What was it we took out?
I think there was an udder underneath the snail.
Yeah, there was a milking scene. Too bad.
Next time.
You Pick Live. So hey, turns out just using the SpongeBob Wikipedia for an entire Nickelodeon-wide programming block might not net the results one wants, which is exactly what I did last time. I happily have a ton more info to drop for this entry. You Pick Live was a programming block on Nickelodeon that ran from 2002 to 2005 and aired from 5 PM to 7 PM on weekdays. The main draw of it was the legitimate ability for viewers to choose what they wanted to have played by going online to Nick's website. You had the main duo of Brent Popolozio and Candace Bailey, but there would be regular appearances from a larger cast, including Garbaggio, a guy who would wrestle stuff like milk, and Antonio, who would do a huge amount of stunts to deliver tapes for the episode. And of course, you had Pick Boy, the superhero mascot, played by Jet Sutphin. This egotistical but naive guy was really fun to watch.
Thanks, guys. I'm here with Derek, and he's got a SpongeBob personal pick. What is it, Derek?
When Squidward gets stuck in the freezer for 1,000 years.
Oh, that is a good one, Derek. Roll it. Hey, you don't mind if I put my arm here, right?
Yes.
You do mind?
I love the variations of segments, with my personal favorite seeing the crew mess around in Times Square, just out in public. I'm very sad I never got to see this show. I legitimately think I would have loved it. It ran for 401 episodes and was believed to be stopped because Candace Bailey didn't renew her contract, and since her and Brent had such good chemistry, Nickelodeon likely thought that losing that valuable asset would tank just any future season.
Oh, I'm wearing my armor today because you said we'd be jousting with spears.
No, I didn't say jousting with spears. I said Jamie Lynn Spears. Jamie Lynn Spears is coming to be on Meathook Live today.
Oh, sweet!
Yeah.
Hey, guys.
Hey, who do you think our guest is today?
I didn't even know we had a guest. I was just making some lunch.
There's a lot more depth to this one, especially with its origin and other cast members. If you want a really good dive into this topic, I'd check out Jordan Fringe's fantastic video. He does a great job at exploring it. Lost episode commercials. For the original entry, I believe this just to be basic commercials for Season 3's The Sponge Who Could Fly. After digging around a bit, I now believe this is actually referring to a sweepstakes done to advertise the episode. I was right about the sponsors last time, them being Twinkies, Danimals, and the Tarantino film Daddy Daycare starring Eddie Murphy, but I failed to mention there were multiple prizes. There were 500 t-shirts given out that were specifically related to the Sponge Who Could Fly, a chest of $1,000, reminds me of somebody, a chest full of Twinkies, and a trip to Jamaica. There were some patchy segments of him also asking celebrities if they can find the lost episode, most notably Whoopi Goldberg. I'm surprised I've never heard of any of these sweepstakes or events. It's really weird finding new SpongeBob or Patchy footage. I should have seen these, but they've just been drowned out over time. Glad to have been able to find them. Legends of Bikini Bottom Wraparounds. These were promos or bumpers that featured Patchy and Potty reading a book of legends for Potty's bedtime story. They were removed for practically everything that just wasn't a TV broadcast. Not in DVDs, streaming services, digital releases, or even reruns. According to the SpongeBob Wiki, only a few of these segments are even just, hey, so Future Betan here, disregard whatever that idiot just said. I tried finding clips and struggled and eventually just gave up. And then I just found them on YouTube. Here's the clip.
It's beautiful. Oh, SpongeBob's Legends of Bikini Bottom, the secret tales no one's ever heard until now. I can't wait to read them, and I know just who to share them with. Quack, quack. Potty!
Neptune's Party. This was the original episode name for the Clash of Triton. Turns out there was even a title card made for it, and it still apparently shows up in a lot of Asian and European airings of the episode. I don't really know how I missed this one. It's literally just a Google search. Flapjack. This is very likely a reference to how the Flying Dutchman and Captain Knuckles share the same voice actor, Brian Doyle Murray, who also happens to be Bill Murray's brother. Small world, huh? Another contender could be similarity in style/humor at some points featured in both shows. As my channel implies, I'm more specialized in the Sponge, so you the viewer probably have a better knowledge of Flapjack than me. Super Sponge Revisited. As pointed out to me in the comments, Super Sponge, one of the many SpongeBob games, has a lot of interesting content in it. All of the stuff mentioned here was found in the source code and assets, not the retail version as I previously thought. It features stuff like SpongeBob background tracks, a folder full of emulators and games, a complete document on the game in a less than positive light, an entire essay for Yoshi's Island, and the cosplay guy with whited out eyes. While on the topic, I may as well address behind closed doors. This was a compilation of very unsavory SpongeBob art that the crew would make generally at the end of each season, and was revealed fairly recently. There are some good videos on it if you want to check it out. There's a really funny story that I found of most of these images, that when originally drawn, they were stuck to the door in the writer's room, to where they could only be spotted if the door was closed, which was actually pretty rare. Eventually they were all compiled together and multiple copies were made just for the crew to share. If you want to find it, the Internet Archive has a full list of them. Just note, I tried my best to stop you. Triumph, the insult comic dog. Last time I mentioned this, the crew for this TV personality were found in the January 6th riots here in the US. I was technically right, but accidentally skewed the interpretation of it. The crew legally got authorization to interview important political people, but stayed an extra day to film some more, and then they were detained and arrested by police. Poor dog. Hey, so also to help the pacing of this video, I'm making a section for any of the entries I'm not really sure on. I have a good idea of what they each are, but I couldn't really find any major sources or anything to truly back up my claims, so. Fuzzy's Golden Belt. Fuzzy's belt was supposed to be golden, not black, and was changed for some odd reason. The only place I can find this on is the SpongeBob Wiki, where they don't feature a citation for a source. So, up to viewer interpretation maybe, unless there's some random audio commentary I've never heard. Rip Pants, original plot. This is likely a reference to Muscle Beach, a story featured in the Pitch Bible. It shares a lot of similarities, and Muscle Beach is believed to have been split into Rip Pants and SpongeGuard on Duty. I say likely because I don't have a solid 100% confirmation, but this would fit really well as the idea. Valentine's Day kissing rumor. There is a supposed rumor that Valentine's Day, the episode, originally featured SpongeBob and Sandy kissing. I could not really find anything about this online, so take it with some salt, though now multiple comments have now discussed this, so I'd say it's up to you for validity. Since the title from the icebergs I've used for this vid specifically note it's just a rumor, I'm gonna say it's false. It also helps that to my knowledge no such scene was ever storyboarded, acted, written, anything. Christmas Island painting. Okay, so earlier I lied about knowing everything. This one, I really don't know what it is. I've tried searching it up, but I can't find anything. There's alternate scenes on the storyboard of Season 2's Christmas Who, but they skip past any Patchy stuff where it'd be relevant. It could be in reference to Patchy directly saying Christmas Island. It could also just be a simple reference to the alternate painting at the start of the episode. Maybe it's referring to being able to buy a copy of the one in the Patchy segment. I really don't know. If anybody does know, please leave a comment. I'd love to hear more about this one. Skin theory. Oh god. Somehow I forgot to mention it last time. Basically, this is a really popular YouTube video exploring the titular skin theory. The theory is focused on how so many Bikini Bottom residents seemingly have skin to rip off, revealing new outfits or otherwise. I would do it a disservice trying to recap it here. Check it out for yourself. Also, I might cover this in a future video, so. Squidward dabbing. This was a popular clip originating in 2016. During a parade of some sort at Universal Studios Orlando, we get to see the legendary employee break character. Also, this really took off of Vine. Remember Vine? SpongeBob Popsicles. This was a famous popsicle featuring our lovely sponge with gumball eyes. Practically every mention of this featured bad design or showed off what it looked like when it melted. I never got to try one of these, and I will take that to my grave as one of my biggest regrets. This entry likely refers to specifically the SpongeBob brand and popsicles from Popsicle. Wait, their brand is literally just called Popsicle, like nothing more creative or anything. How long has this been a thing? Warblowers. This was a music track mainly featured in the earlier seasons of the show. For a long time, it was believed to have a lost extended version, but Spongediver's Music, an insanely dedicated SpongeBob music channel, uploaded the full thing. They are also the ones responsible for uploading the full Humpback Hop, an entry from the previous video. Respect to the channel for just the pure dedication they put in. Keep it up. While on the topic, I may as well also cover Agent Woodrow. The song was only ever featured in Season 1's Employee of the Month, and would later be cut out in a ton of DVD releases, but Amazon Prime still has it. For the altered versions, it was replaced by a song whose name I won't even try to pronounce. Big Time Beach Party. I know how much you guys loved my comments about missing classic shows like Jimmy Neutron or Flapjack, so I can proudly say that in exchange for those essential shows, I watched a ton of Big Time Rush as a kid. Oh yeah, not worth the trade-off at all. But this entry is about a cameo of Patchy in the episode Big Time Beach Party, where Patchy meets some of the main characters from Big Time Rush to help them with a treasure hunt.
You must be worth like... Over here on me beach now! Yeah, real pirates! Not just any pirate, Patchy the pirate. The saltiest, skull and bonesiest, hook-handiest pirate to ever search for buried treasure.
His side plot involves trying to open up a chest, eventually resorting to a cannon that just doesn't work.
Wait a minute.
How did we miss that?
Man, I'm glad my knowledge on this forgotten Nickelodeon sitcom would come in handy. Who knows what would have happened if I had instead watched Jimmy Neutron. I might have ended up actually developing a better palate for more cartoons. And on this channel, we can't have that. Also wondering for feedback, I know this channel is supposed to be about like SpongeBob, but if I did like one of those like famous 8 to 9 hour video essays on Big Time Rush, would you guys watch that at all? Nickelodeon stealing art. For one promotion about LEGO City Adventures and new SpongeBob episodes, you can see a quick segment of a yellow LEGO brick splash down. Looks great, right? Guess what? You just said plagiarized art was good, you disgusting little barnacle. This drawing was made by an artist known as Lil Whatburger, and he claimed Nick stole his art around the 27th of June, 2019, and removed his watermark while the original artwork was uploaded on June 12th, 2016. Looking at both side by side, at least to me it seems very blatantly stolen. I actually was able to get in contact with him for clarification, and Nickelodeon just never responded. No follow-up, no apology, not even some kind of investigation. Just nothing. The worst part is this isn't even the first time something like this has occurred. One game made by Nickelodeon, titled Extreme Tennis, had a selection of emotes you could choose as different characters. One of these characters was Danny Phantom, and the angry one looks incredibly similar to that of an artist known as Mayuko. Thankfully, this story actually has a really nice ending, where the devs realized they accidentally used fan art because it was so high quality that it fooled the devs for official Danny Phantom Art. They publicly apologized, changed the art, and even asked about my Yugo's portfolio. Klasky Chupo error. Around the early 2000s, there was a pretty well-known bug or glitch or just some kind of error that instead of displaying the United Plankton Pictures logo, we would instead be treated to this totally not disturbing end screen. Klasky Chupo is an animation company, and during this time they helped to produce some of the Nickelodeon shows, most notably Rocket Power and As Told by Ginger. They also were the ones to make the Rugrats special All Growed Up. Basically, this is just a simple error broadcast, and it was placed here probably because of that terrifying logo and speech accompanying it. Who wouldn't blame a kid for getting scared of this? Karate Chopper's deleted scene. So, on the Lost Media Wiki, they claim that in Karate Chopper's audio commentary, there was a cut scene of Sandy hitting some poor fish in the nuts. I'm glad I actually checked the audio commentary because this is just flat out not true. No references or anything to any kind of deleted scene. So instead I'll use this entry to discuss some other fun things about the episode. The cast members seem to be having a lot of fun discussing this episode, and while nobody says it, there definitely feels like a strong implication. Give it a listen.
You gotta love the impact sounds. I love this.
See, he's trying to remain strong and chaste in the face of his vow.
Exactly.
It's almost, you know.
12 seconds later.
But no more karate. It's poisoning your mind.
I'm surprised that line got in there.
Safety first.
Also in the same commentary, we got a fun fact that the mythical god known as the Hot Sauce Drop, played by Tom Kenny, was done in a Nickelodeon bathroom with some simple red makeup. Tea at the Tree Dome book. This was a book released on August 1st, 2000 and follows the plot of Season 1's Tea at the Tree Dome. Big shocker there. Likely why the reason this is on here is because this is the first ever SpongeBob book to be made. Author is Terry Collins and was illustrated by Mark O'Hare, who you might recognize for being a writer for Seasons 1 through 3. He also does storyboarding. There are also some minor differences between the book and the episode, most notably being a dream sequence that SpongeBob and Patrick have when dehydrated. They believe themselves to be at a Goo Lagoon party, but other than that, it's pretty similar. Quarantine Crab will never air again. Season 12's Quarantine Crab is all about the Krusty Krab going into lockdown and a subsequent pandemonium following a potential virus outbreak. You've probably guessed, but it got pulled for concerns about the 2020 pandemic. Strangely, it isn't even on the complete 12th season DVD set. Vincent Waller later claimed that the episode would be shelved until the pandemic died down. Kinda sucks that they just removed it for the episode. I managed to procure it, and honestly had a great time watching it. Good jokes and nice pacing. Everywhere at the End of Bikini Bottom. This is a full album by the Sponge Taker, and is a large reference to the Caretakers Everywhere at the End of Time. Chances are you've heard of that album, but if not, it's an album that goes for about 6 hours and mainly features early 20th century ballroom music. As the album goes on, more noise and distortions are added until it becomes basically unrecognizable. It's meant to show the stages and horrible progression of dementia, and is really depressing to listen to, but it does a great job at showcasing what it wants. This album seems to be a way of presenting that for a younger generation of people to really highlight dementia. I don't listen to ballroom music, and you likely don't either, but since you've clicked on this video, you've definitely heard of some kind of SpongeBob music or media before, so this album plays off of that instead. The song titles also follow a similar format to the Caretakers, and I just want to note that the title, I Am Proof Neptune Has No Mercy, is such a cold line. You can find this album on YouTube or just buy it on Liminal Garden, and it was released on November 11th, 2021. r/SpongeBob Gore. Oh man, the whiplash between entries. This is just a subreddit dedicated to adding blood and gore to SpongeBob media. That's it. There's no other cool trivia or anything, which honestly just makes it funnier to me. And with that, we finally get to move on to SpongeBob Hemp Pants. Around the 2010s, there was a show called VH1 Illustrated, which was an animated sketch comedy show. One of the more notable sketches was SpongeBob Hemp Pants. Take your guess as to the subject matter. We have so many lovely characters such as SpongeBob, Hash Trick, Mr. Crack, and more. There's actually a really fun story to this one. Once episodes were finished and were ready to premiere in about 6 hours, the main creator of the sketches was contacted and was told that VH1's legal department got cold feet and decided to call Nickelodeon to ask for permission. Permission to show a satire of the company's perfect money-making spongy child. What a fantastic idea. The creator tried contacting Hillenburg, but no calls were returned. The sketch was quickly swapped later and it never aired on TV. You can find episodes online, such as on the Internet Archive if you want. Drowning Kid Rumor. This was an infamous urban legend that varies between storytellers, but most often features a family on a cruise ship who hears their child tell them they're gonna go find SpongeBob, yay! The parents, also demonstrating perfect parenting, just brush it off and ignore their kid. Later the kid is found to have jumped overboard and drowned. This story is just not true. Many sources debunk this, most notably Snopes, in which fact-checking is like, you know, their whole thing. On the flip side, there was actually a really great interaction of a kid saving his neighbor, to which he credited SpongeGuard on duty for helping with swimming techniques. The whole rumor was basically just a way for parents to try to fearmonger SpongeBob, which sucks, as those poor kids are missing out, man. Stuck in the freezer. Nothing too special, this was just the original name for the Truth or Square special. We even got a different title card for it. It'd definitely make more sense than the title Truth or Square in my opinion, but maybe we should save that can of worms for another video. Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy 2 deleted scene. So, turns out in Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy 2, instead of just models of Krabby Patties of the two superheroes, it was actually meant to be raw meat instead. This also featured judges that were not the realistic fish head who would eat part of Spring Boob Squarepants' model. There was even a nice recreation. It looks great. Props to maximized animation. Top 10 funny SpongeBob faces. 11 years ago we were blessed with this godsend of a video. Less than a minute long, it was just a top 10 list of funny SpongeBob faces. Every Windows Movie Maker indie style is here. Special note goes to number 6, the dollar. This is a fantastic video, and I love how once we hit the top 3, we also just lose the numbers altogether. A certified classic. Snowball Effect Dungeon. This was a cutscene during Season 3's Snowball Effect, which featured a tour of Fort Squidward's torture chamber, complete with decapitated snowmen. Poor guys. The deranged leader of Fort Squidward also had a quote, stating, "I'll bring them to my snow dungeon and extract their valuable secrets." This scene never made it past storyboarding, but we do get some really cool art. SpongeBob Frogs art. This was some relatively recently found lost art by Jay Lender, showcasing a nice little scene between SpongeBob and Pat. The name actually comes from the movie Frogs, which Hillenburg liked. Jay Lender, according to his tweet on it, claims that the drawing must have been gifted alongside a poster of said movie. Always great to see some more behind the scenes stuff. SpongeBob Target commercial. This is referring to an old 2001 Target commercial featuring some lovely animation. Not too much to say, but it's just a nice little cozy commercial. You know what else featured Target? My latest video! You should go watch me $1,000,000. Huh, I wonder what this could be referring to. Let's try searching it up on YouTube.
The ones who saw it, like the comments are lit. Thanks, man, I appreciate you. Let's go!
Oh no. So this was a very viral clip featuring this lovely guy, Skyview Ray, watching the start of a YouTube poop titled Me $1,000,000, which was created by Jallerbo, a prominent YouTube poop creator. Chances are you probably know this clip. I'm not going to show it because I think YouTube would actually just kill me for it, but if you want to find it, it's easily accessible. Just be warned, the whole vid has basically no boundaries on what it'll do. Trail of the Snail. This was an online game back from when Have You Seen This Snail first premiered. Nothing too special, gameplay is pretty boring and is just really generic and just features you harassing poor duplicate characters and their families, including Patrick, Squidward, Sandy, and more. Doesn't this kind of go against the whole point of Have You Seen This Snail by having SpongeBob use the dirty bubble paddle ball? Probably looking way too far into the online game here. Hitman 2, Easter egg. In Hitman 2, no, the other one, on the Florida map you can find an aquarium section, where you can find a sponge, starfish, and an underwater pineapple. You can also find pineapples and sponges in other areas, such as in a bathtub in the Germany map for Hitman 3. After researching a bit more thoroughly, you can apparently just find SpongeBob references practically everywhere throughout the latest 3 games, which is just really sick. I love it. Christmas Who, Unused Scenes. This has about 5 different interpretations, with 3 of them being simple dialogue cuts or changes, such as Mr. Krabs talking more about the pony he wants or SpongeBob saying, "Looky who's next." The other 2 are when Squid gives the child a wrench. It was originally supposed to be an antique of himself, and in my opinion, probably the most likely take on this entry is how during the musical number, instead of Plankton and Krabs singing together, it was first supposed to be 2 incidentals in this scene, then we would move on to the fruitcake foes. My Fair Plankton. Pretty short entry. The season 1 episode Fun was originally going to be called My Fair Plankton in reference to the plot of the episode. I dug a little bit more into the source of this entry, and it's specifically from a tweet by Adam Polonian, a storyboard artist for the show. This is barely related to the entry anymore, but I wanted to note in a reply, he clarifies that Nickelodeon has a server to archive stuff from the past, so most of the lost media on here has a genuinely good chance just to be locked inside that server. I'll Hug You and Kill You. So for Nick's Attack of the Toy Bots, a crossover game featuring a ton of different IPs, there's actually a special message that can be found on the box of an enemy called Mr. Huggles. I'll hug you and kill you, you'll never sleep again, I'll kill your parents. Lovely. This message is pretty difficult to see normally, so it's just an Easter egg. I wonder what inspires the developer to put that in a kid's game. There's been worse. SpongeBob SquarePants Yellow and Patrick Star Pink. Pantone is a company well versed in various designs, such as graphic design and fashion design. Basically, they are known for the management of colors. This is really cool, as in 2019 they collaborated with Nickelodeon to produce SpongeBob SquarePants Yellow and Patrick Star Pink. This was mainly for the Best Year Ever event to celebrate the 20th anniversary of the Sponge. The vice president of the company had this quote to say about it. Inspired by SpongeBob's enthusiasm, playfulness, and fun-loving nature, the new SpongeBob Yellow we create is a luminous golden hue that reflects the energy of the sun, radiating joy and happiness and sparking imagination. Patrick Star Pink, a warm and inviting coral pink, is the perfect companion color to SpongeBob Yellow. Spirited and affable, a lighthearted pink hue is ideally suited to the fun and laughter of being with your best friend. Aw, isn't that nice? To celebrate the at least 5 subscribers of my channel, I've also decided to follow this trend. Introducing Be-Tan Black, a smooth, delectable, and I might even have to say downright sexy hue, just for you. Five Nights at the Krusty Krab. Five Nights at the Krusty Krab, or as I like to call it, Fnatic, was a game released on January 29th, 2015. It also serves as a prequel for Five Nights at the Chum Bucket, which was made by the same creator, that being Sinker-Rooney. These games are obviously a reference to the Five Nights at Freddy's series and feature similar gameplay, but with a nautical twist of characters. There's actually a lot more than I thought here, with various pieces of lore and characters. Your goal is to survive in whichever location you find yourself stuck in, avoiding the animatronic characters of the main crew. The developer was going to make a third entry titled Five Nights at Rock Bottom, but cancelled it. Until recently, they made Five Nights at the Krusty Krab Chapter 3. I'd recommend you check out someone's video on the series, like Markiplier's, though it is 8 years old. I love the look in 3D models. It has a cool look and great image of the two feuding restaurants. Try checking it out, it's good. 7/25/2005. This is a creepypasta about a glitch airing of Season 2's Your Shoes Untied and Gary Takes a Bath. Viewers claim that the broadcast would glitch and mess up, notably during a scene of SpongeBob entering. The first version was uploaded on July 6, 2020 by a channel called Nice and Cool. More and more versions of it would be seen on YouTube. One thing to note is the original upload was actually part of an ARG, but as time goes on the glitch episode takes more of the spotlight. This was not real, as Nice and Cool at one point even said someone made a creepypasta about their video. If you want a more in-depth look, I'd recommend Pig Gamer's video on the topic, hopefully linked right now if I did my job right. Now leaving Bikini Bottom. This was a false claim for a series finale, with the episode title being Now Leaving Bikini Bottom. Apparently this special would have aired in about 2009. I don't even have like a quippy joke or anything for this, it's just flat out fake. Salty Sodas. This was a story Bible idea, more so for the pilot. Mr. Krabs would have left the Krusty Krab for a day, leaving Squid and Sponge in charge, but he reminds them to refill the fridge and not drink any of the salty sodas. SpongeBob inevitably ends up shotgunning them like a freshman at a frat house and becomes super bloated and buoyant, floating around and causing damage to everything. Suddenly Krabs comes back with Pearl for lunch, so Squidward has to try and hide SpongeBob's salt pants from him. To me, this just has the perfect early SpongeBob charm. Something as simple as just SpongeBob and Squidward having to work together to avoid both getting in trouble sounds like a really fun time, and I would have loved to see this become an actual episode. Sadly, this one has stayed in the pitch Bible. Krusty Mobile. This was another pitch Bible pilot idea. Mr. Krabs, sensing a smart move for more profit, turns the Krusty Krab into a mobile restaurant, complete with food-firing cannons. He, Sponge, Squid, and for some reason Pat end up all going across the sea and face many obstacles. Eventually they'd cross paths with Plankton's Chum Bucket submarine, and the two mobile restaurants would engage in a vicious food fight. Similar to my comment earlier, this one just oozes charm. I don't know how much of an influence this one had, but Season 5's 20,000 Patties Under the Sea features both a mobile Krusty Krab and Chum Bucket. I can see why it maybe didn't work as a pilot. It seems better as like a second or third episode, at least to me. Pat in the Chum Bucket. To cap off our Bible Pilot trilogy, we have an unnamed story about Patrick getting a job at the Chum Bucket. Envious of the Krusty Krab uniforms, Pat goes to the Chum Bucket where Plankton attempts to use Pat as a way to get the formula. Countering this, Mr. Krab goes full 1984 and forbids any mention of that pink menace. Eventually, Sponge and Pat's friendship would win out. This one seems to have had the most influence here. Pat being envious of the Krusty outfits would be utilized in Big Pink Loser and No Hat for Pat. Patrick would also later get to work for Plankton in Chum Bucket Supreme, and Sponge and Pat's friendship would get manipulated in Naughty Nautical Neighbors. Still though, really cool episode. Revenge of the Flying Dutchman fishing gear music. This music plays during Revenge of the Flying Dutchman, obviously, during which you wear a specific piece of gear. To my knowledge, this is the most useful stuff to have equipped, but since the gear music overrides basically anything else, it just loops this song for a majority of the game. For like 6 hours, it's just this. I pray for those poor souls stuck in fishing gear limbo. Cut off your nutsack. Oh boy. This beautiful quote is from Patrick's voice actor, Bill Fagerbach, in the 2009 film Jennifer's Body. Patrick's voice actor says in response to his character's child being murdered, quote,
Myself. I will. Do you hear me, you bastard? I'll cut off your nutsack and nail it to my door! Like one of those lion door knockers rich folks got! That will be your balls!
When he says the quote, you can almost make out the Patrick voice slipping just a little bit through. And of course, with this, plenty of fan interpretations have emerged. From what I found, this actually started with a YouTube channel called Dead Meat, which specializes in horror movies and are known for their impressive kill counts. I'm very biased, by the way. Hey, Mr. James A. Janice, if you ever need help with a SpongeBob project, I will happily answer the call. Please, I've been here since like day one. Guys, in 2020. This was a viral clip from the YouTube channel Extreme Games. I'll just let it speak for itself.
Guys, in 2020, SpongeBob might actually look like this in the animations. I don't even know what to do anymore. No!
The Bikini Bottom Horror. This was an infamous webcomic known for its lovely use of extremely graphic details. Basically, Patrick becomes an eldritch monster and ravages Bikini Bottom. This was created by Still in the Simulation, and I gotta give props to their artwork and style. I honestly really like it, especially with the graphic details. If this winds up blurred or censored in this video, my apologies, but you'll at least know why. I'm keeping this entry light because I really want to cover this in a video someday. 2000's Kids' Choice Award short. This was a short featured in the Nickelodeon Kids' Choice Awards during 2000 for the greatest cartoon, and Rugrats ended up winning. You might also recognize the animation here, as it is recycled from Season 1's Opposite Day, just with some altered lip syncing here and there. It's nothing too crazy, but it's always fun to go back and see the early stages of the show before it became the juggernaut we know today. Dream Hoppers, alternate ending. Season 12's Dream Hoppers originally had a different ending. When waking up at the end, Squidward finds both Pat and SpongeBob also sleeping in the same bed. We would then see a real-life equivalent of Roger Bumpus seeing Tom Kenny and Bill Fagerbach doing the same. Sad to see it cut. I actually really like that idea. Spongiforme SquarePantsy. This was an officially named species of fungus found in Malaysia around 2011. It happens to have similar properties of a sponge, such as feeling rubbery, having holes, and having the ability of storing water and being able to wring it out. You can find this lovely mushroom in rainforest on Borneo, a tropical island containing some or all of Indonesia, Malaysia, and Brunei. Hey, shout out to my 1300 Indonesian and 700 Malaysian viewers. You guys are my favorite audience, hands down. The fungi is clearly named after the show, but apparently the founders of it had trouble with getting the name to be cleared. They were declined the name as it was deemed frivolous, but the amazing founders said, and I quote, "We could name it whatever we liked. Take that, Big Pharma!" And nothing happened. This was, and kinda still is, a viral clip of SpongeBob, Squidward, and Krabs dancing during Season 3's clams amongst world-ending disasters and a very well-done atmosphere. Often it's paired with the Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask Final Hours theme, which complements it just a little bit too well. The clip originated from Awful Fawful, one well-known YouTube poop creator most recognizable for their Deliver Us series that totally won't shatter you with existential dread. This video was believed to be privated, but it still arose in modern culture, so someone likely kept an archive of the video. Also, I dug a little bit more and really enjoyed the music used in the first Deliver Us video, so here's the channel if you want to check out some great tunes. At the moment, I've tried asking them for permission, so if the audio doesn't play right now, then you know why. SpongeBob SNL. Okay, so this is referring to his segment on Saturday Night Live, and more specifically a cartoon called The Ex-Presidents. This was a big political satire cartoon featuring some trademark classics of American politicians. We mostly care about the 2003 episode simply titled Cartoon, in which we see legendary figures such as George H.W. Bush, Ronald Reagan, Jimmy Carter, and Gerald Ford all team up with SpongeBob to try to make a pro-war cartoon. And you know the crazy thing? SNL actually got Tom Kenny to voice it. Who you are hearing right now is Tom Kenny.
You want me to sponge up all of the urine in America and then squeeze myself over Saddam Hussein's mouth?
So after SpongeBob refuses to do a propaganda video, he is falsely incriminated with possession of underage sponge porn. I did not think I'd end up saying that today. Luckily, SpongeBob isn't in complete trouble as some Cartoon Network rivals show up to save him.
Egads, more Hollywood liberals.
SpongeBob?
Yup, the Powerpuff Girls also show up here. Unfortunately, they are no match for the American political system and they get lobbied. Out of all the entries we have had up to this point, this one really takes the cake. I never thought I'd hear SpongeBob officially say Saddam Hussein. Can't wait to later see Patrick become a televangelist. Feral Friends, deleted scene. Season 10's fantastic Feral Friends originally had an extra scene during the montage of characters getting affected by the moon. We would get to see Plankton in the chum bucket, who gets turned into a tiny disgusting little copepod, which Karen swats and flicks away. Man, this episode is great, go give it a watch. Target middle finger. Pop quiz time. You remember that Target commercial entry from earlier and how I said it was super cozy? Guess what? There's an extra bit of info I lied to you about. Drawn by Scott O'Brien, an artist in animation circles but didn't work on SpongeBob to my knowledge, this great art piece was made during the Target ad production. Apparently O'Brien was so tired of a client in Atlanta referring to SpongeBob just as Sponge, he decided to create this magnificent sketch. I love it. I could see this being a great reaction image to use. eBay episode listings. These were 6 episode plot synopses for the show, but more oddly were found listed on eBay in July of 2022. These were mainly for seasons 5 and 7, although there were a few for 8. Going through each, My Pet Pat, outlined by Derek Iverson during 2009, is a very interesting episode. This special was about Pat getting fed up with being Bikini Bottom's punching bag, and ends up getting kidnapped and literally domesticated like a cat. SpongeBob goes to save him, but Pat convinces SpongeBob it's better to live with his new owners. But they only want starfish, so SpongeBob will have to disguise as one. That's all the plot we get for this, but I'm not even gonna lie, I really like the sound of this. It would have helped Season 7 stand up a lot more, especially if it could carry the dead weight of something like One Course Meal or something similar. Next up, a 4-minute Season 5 short titled Red Riptides, which would feature Mrs. Puff showing her class a terrifying PSA about boating, and SpongeBob would find himself in the actual PSA, terrified out of his poor spongy mind. He eventually breaks free from the movie, to which Mrs. Puff would reveal this was a tactic to scare SpongeBob from driving. Not the best type of driver's ed I've seen, but it's also fun to note this was by Richard Purcell. After that, we have Season 5's Camp Head Trauma by Danny McKelly. This 7-minute episode would be about Sponge and Pat going to Camp Head Trauma, but would unfortunately get bullied by the campers, especially for SpongeBob's wild animal calls that he was practicing. One ghost story about a wild zombie hyena fish and more bullying later, the pair are ready to give up camp. But SpongeBob, showing his great optimism, tries out for the camp talent show. It does not go well, but the zombie hyena fish turns out to be real and invades the camp. Luckily, they get driven off by SpongeBob's wild animal call and get celebrated as heroes in the camp. As mentioned before, this would be an approximately 7-minute episode, so imagine pacing closer to something like Season 2's Gary Takes a Bath. This was also believed to be shelved for the inmates of summer, which was actually outlined just a mere 28 days later. Again with another 7-minute episode by Danny McKelly, but this time for Season 7, we have Sponge Sprite. First thing to note, this is a Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy episode, so it's already off to a fantastic start. This would be about Sponge and Pat finding a lost episode of the underwater adventures of Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy. SpongeBob, demonstrating perfect cosmic irony, reveals he bought the episode off of Seabed. The two then watch the episode, which is about a young Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy who save a small sponge being attacked by, and I would like to quote, underwater-dwelling cyborg turtle warriors. After this, the sponge follows our superhero squad around and causes multiple instances of bad luck, such as flat tires or tickets for our superheroes, although they unfortunately fail to notice. The sponge then reveals himself as a sprite, not that kind, a powerful cosmic entity who just likes to mess with people. Barnacle Boy then communicates with the turtles from before and discovers they are actually interdimensional parole officers instead. Both groups team up and manage to capture the spongy Sprite can. We then end the episode with the non-Sprite Sponge and Pat, who just go to play the episode again. And ultimately, we have Surf and Turf. Wait a minute. So yeah, the original plot got kind of Frankensteined into the Season 11 episode of the same name, but it features a vastly different plot. Meant for Season 8, we again have good old Richard Purcell on deck. Mr. Krabs wants to expand his business to get some more customers, and perks up when Sandy talks about how hungry humans can get. Krabs steals some of Sandy's equipment to make a bathysphere to send SpongeBob to the surface and sell Krabby Patties. The humans of the surface world, just shown as feet and hands as like classic cartoons, go crazy for the patties. Sal Sandollar, owner of a nearby taco hut, is furious at losing his customers. More and more shenanigans ensue until Sal steals Krabby Patty meat for his tacos and destroys the bathysphere, sending SpongeBob crashing back down to the Krusty Krab, but he's luckily saved by Sandy. A strike force consisting of the main cast then take it upon themselves to go attack Sal himself. I misread this one my first go through, but here's the exact quote with no editing or like abbreviations or cutting anything out. We see the frightened feet of customers scattering, leaving a flurry of money in their wake, all afraid of the angry sea creatures now storming the beach from the sea. Later, Sal hangs as a trophy on Mr. Krabs' office wall as SpongeBob and the rest enjoy a Krabby Taco Fest. They killed him! Finally, we end with Pineapple Princess, again by Richard Purcell, meant for Season 8, and hoo boy, this one is packed full of content, but it's surprisingly only 11 minutes. This one would be about SpongeBob finding a pineapple princess that is looking for a summer vacation home. SpongeBob gladly welcomes her to his fruity abode, and she begins to change it with polished floors and a more regal atmosphere. But SpongeBob doesn't mind. Pat eventually becomes a royal knight and ends up beating up Squid. Sadly, the photo for this is curved, so I couldn't really get all the plot synopsis. What I think happens is she tries to run away from her father, but we soon learn they're not actually royalty. The king is just a character featured on a Bikini Bottom store commercial, much to the chagrin of Sponge and Pat. The king thanks SpongeBob and Pat, cue the end. I like this one. Now, because we have to be objective and disallow any fun on this channel, I'm making a tier list. Yeah, good enough for me. 5572-220, another day, another lost episode. So this is in reference to the production code numbers of episodes. Season 3's Pranks-A-Lot has a code of 5572-218, while its sister episode has 221. 217 was the Sponge Who Could Fly, but for some reason 219 was the Patchy segment. So to recap, we have all the episodes except for 220. People like to think there was some scary lost media. I'm sorry to say, but it's not real. Not sure why the code got skipped over, but it is what it is. I'm kinda getting tired of the lost episode stuff, so let's read a description about it and see what it's about. Ho 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 ho, SpongeBob me boy, I stole Gary and I will turn him into meat within the next 30 minutes. Ho ho ho, you are also terminated from your position at the Krusty Krab. Ho ho ho. SpongeBob's eyes then turn red and start to bleed blood. He collapses to the floor and lets out an agonizing scream of pure pain and suffering. It's time to rip and tear. A Day in the Life of Plankton. This was a potential episode idea by Adam Polowian. It would mostly be about what Plankton does all day when not trying to steal the formula. It was actually intended to be a short, ranging around 4 to 5 minutes, and would feature a lot of ambient sounds and minimal audio cues, alongside no music at all. The short would take place in the Chum Bucket, but once Plankton leaves, presumably towards the Krusty Krab at the end, the show's great music would activate. Unfortunately, life got in the way and Adam was unable to finish it and pitch it. I'd love to see this. I think it could work really well, especially with that no music idea. It's like taking Reef Blower, but in an alternate direction. It sounds really promising, but oh well. SpongeBob and Pearl Origins. While Hillenburg basically nuked any attempt at an origin story for SpongeBob or Pearl, some ideas still did surface. Richard Purcell wanted to write an origin that featured SpongeBob shaped like an actual sea sponge, but would gain his legendary rectangular shape thanks to the Cyclops from the first movie of all people. He would have ended up cutting SpongeBob into a square shape in a factory on land. Kinda gives now a different view of the whole Shell City scene now, considering it could have been SpongeBob versus his original foe. Kinda glad it was never utilized, honestly. There were also some plans for a Pearl origin story or episode, but was vetoed by Hillenburg, and one of the ideas of the pitch is that Pearl was found by Cheapy the Cheapskate, indicating she was adopted. But as of now, and probably the future, we will never get this episode. One interesting facet of this is concerning Pearl herself. In the pitch Bible, Pearl got special note of originally being the smartest character in Bikini Bottom, though this would be balanced out with more rebellious teenage stuff, and can you blame her? For being more of a minor role in the show, the pitch Bible added a lot more emphasis on her. I'd love to see more forgotten aspects like this. Toys R Us commercial. I believe this is in reference to this video featuring an uncanny SpongeBob model detailing a Toys R Us SpongeBob lineup. SpongeBob actually makes a reference to a room full of managers, so this seems like it was meant to be shown to employees.
This might be the most beautiful thing I've ever seen in my life. An entire room full of Toys R Us managers. What a good-looking audience, except for that guy right in the back.
Could you imagine seeing this at your job? I'm not sure how I'd feel about it. Also, look at Pat. Yellowhand Squidward. This was a simple error during Season 3's Club SpongeBob. At one point, Squid picks up the mythical piece of plastic known as the magic conch shell, and in close-up we see that it's in fact yellow. This was fixed in 2019 for most remastered stuff, but you can still find it today if you want. Mrs. Puff's father. So for Season 3's Doing Time, if you go to the credits, you'll actually be able to find a spot for Mrs. Puff's father, but he never shows up in the episode at all. According to the SpongeBob Wiki, Tom Kenny had actually finished recording his lines for Puff Sr., but they just went unused. Oh well. Chuck that into the technically lost because it's in the unbreakable Nickelodeon vault bin. Wet Painters Cut Line. Man, we just keep coming back to Season 3, huh? During the intro of Wet Painters, the storyboard version includes an extra line recorded by Tom Kenny.
Heave-ho! I dedicate this crash to my old pal Squidward! Bye!
This never made it in, not sure why. The wiki claims it could be insinuating Squidward is dead, but we do see him like 10 seconds later, so probably just cut for time, who knows. I'm a goofy goober, yeah, this error, message. There is a lot of unused and odd content in the classic indie game Undertale. One character you can meet is Burger Pants, who is a charming individual. For some reason there's an error message attributed to him that you wouldn't be able to find normally. I'm a goofy goober, yeah, this error, message. Considering how much this guy loves his job, I wonder if there's any inspiration from a certain octopus cashier or spongy fry cook. I tried asking Toby Fox about this, but as expected, didn't get a result. Patchy in the first movie. For the prologue / intro / whatever you want to call it of the first movie, we follow a pirate crew who get tickets to the SpongeBob movie and later ruin that poor minimum wage employee's life. Turns out it was originally going to be Patchy and Potty who led the pirate crew. Vincent Waller later said that the reason Patchy was replaced was, and I quote, because the movie folks don't really understand his appeal. Intentionally low production value scares them. This is a great reference, as Patchy was originally created during Season 2 so more double-length episodes could exist. He was made as an homage to local children's show hosts, which were known for their cheap production value. You might notice Patchy's eye patch constantly changing eyes as well as his hook, which further adds to the idea of the low cost. Even Potty is included as the strings, and the poor guy using them, gives an even lower quality feel to everything. For as cheap as he may be, he empties his wallet out for SpongeBob, and we love him for it. Bob Spongy Lawsuit, May 13th, 2008. Troy Walker, a California resident and creator of a single black and white comic strip featuring the character Bob Spongy, sues Viacom, Nick, Paramount, and Steven Hillenburg for infringing on his copyright on the Bob Spongy character. He created the comic strip in 1991, as in the only one to ever be created. Now, I try to avoid my own bias when examining stuff like this, but come on, this is just funny to read. He wants $1.6 billion, or in today's terms, about $2.2 billion. But you know, let's consider Troy's argument from court. He said both characters feature a lot of similarities, such as being named Bob and being sponges. Checks out so far. Both have nearly identical shoes, nearly identical eyes, and both are looking for work. Wait, I don't know about that one, Troy. Troy also claims that one of his characters, Bob's daughter Bubbles, was ripped off by Sandy's design because of her bubble-shaped helmet. I swear to God, I'm not making this next part up. He claims SpongeBob's grandma ripped off Bob's wife Linda because, I quote, both are submissive female characters. After presumably collapsing from laughter in the courtroom, the lawyers found no major connection and Troy did not unfortunately get his $2.2 billion. Poor guy. How about we go set up a GoFundMe for him? Lost baseball animation. Okay, so back in 2005, someone claimed to have seen a baseball game alongside an introduction animation featuring SpongeBob talking about baseball and having fun. The Lost Media Wiki forum started searching for it and found some potential info, but nothing super concrete. After a while of searching, some leads have popped up, more specifically with the baseball team and getting told by someone that the animation was not custom, so it's just from an episode. It's a really interesting search that's still ongoing, and hey wait, that's El Supersonic Q! Basically, the search is just still ongoing, but looking optimistic. Tons of unused content in the first movie. There's a sizable amount of cut stuff from the first movie. We have stuff like SpongeBob showing Patrick his calendar, a fully animated scene of SpongeBob placing cheese on Phil's burger, a quick scene of SpongeBob and Patrick slam against the wall at the Krusty Krab, a small scene at Goofy Goobers with a mother and son.
Alright folks, this one goes out to two of my bestest friends in the whole world, Patrick and this big peanut guy. Let me hear you, people! Mommy, can we go now? I thought you'd never ask.
And an extra scene of the Hoff. You likely know of the first one, that being when SpongeBob and Patrick are on the surface. They encounter her getting chased by humans in black suits, and she has the appearance of a realistic squirrel. Patrick then vomits at this, which is why it was likely cut.
I don't know. SpongeBob, Patrick, is that you?
Sandy Cheeks, is that you?
Mother of pearl, Sandy, wherever you are, save us from this hideous monster! Guys, it's me, Sandy Cheeks. This is what I look like up on the surface.
Sorry, Sandy, you look so, different.
We've located the squirrel. We're moving in to apprehend.
Nuts! Take cover, boys. This could get messy.
But there was also an earlier cutscene as well. When SpongeBob starts heading to the Krusty Krab for the manager's announcement, he'd actually encounter Sandy and they'd spar for a bit. Sandy would then reveal that she is going to take a bus to see a squirrel doctor. I do really like how they tried to get more characters to have roles. That's one of the major criticisms I have of the first movie. Feels like a lot of the supporting and even main cast gets shafted, so it's really nice to at least have a scene explaining where Sandy went.
So, you're selling the Krabby Patty, ain't Plankton? That's right, Squidward.
Tons of unused content in the second movie. The cut content in the second movie has a lot more animations and scenes done that I can show instead of images, thankfully. So there was a cut scene involving SpongeBob and Plankton time traveling way too far back and encountering the Patrickosaurus and Squidosaurus Rex. There'd also be a scene where the duo encounters variations of cyborgs, as well as a scene where SpongeBob makes whatever this is.
What is that thing?
Whatever it is, it's not a Krabby Patty. It's alive! Alive!
Probably my favorite cutscene of all of them is Mr. Krabs quite literally brainwashing SpongeBob. There are a few more things, such as a fully animated Burger Beard flashback, as well as the scene on the surface where Mr. Krabs tries to get naked in a street performer's guitar case where he keeps donations. The credits list this guy as Saul Hudson, who I really don't know. Oh, him. If you don't know, this guy is commonly known as Slash, lead guitarist of Guns N' Roses, famous rock band. And probably the most well-known cutscene is the Thank Gosh It's Monday segment, which would have been a musical number to open the movie. Tons of unused content in the third movie. Okay, so in our trilogy, this one's the odd one out. The third movie's storyline changed a ton during production. It was originally pitched as a live-action and animated movie about Gary getting kidnapped by Neptune and taken to Atlantis to be cloned. There's some interesting concept art here with a cool style to it, but there's one notable element standing out that you probably noticed. King Neptune was supposed to be played in live action by Will Ferrell, most commonly known for his legendary role as Will Ferrell in Truth or Square. According to the legend Paul Tibbett himself, Paramount rejected it since they were worried Atlantis would fail at the box office. And judging by their first attempt to navigate Atlantis, I can't believe I'm gonna say this, but can you blame them? The next variation was the cat script, as I call it. This would have still featured Gary getting snail napped, but this time it would be by anthropomorphic cats, and it would lead more into science fiction. This one got scrapped for being just a little bit too far-fetched, and the team wanted something a bit more grounded. Don't believe me about it being weird? One subplot would have starred Nicolas Cage as himself running for President of the United States, but would later be replaced by Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. Out of all the three entries, this one has by far the most concept art. I might even cover it more in a video, but it's just really lovely and fantastic to look at. Props to the artist. Eddsworld SpongeBob Test. Eddsworld, a classic animation channel, had a small video featuring the characters lip-syncing Now That We're Men from the first movie, complete with different visuals. To my knowledge, this was considered lost media for a while, if YouTube titles are anything to go by. I don't have much else, so I might be missing something here. Russian Squidward. This was some unused character art for the Season 8 special Frozen Face-Off, where we'd get to see Squidward rocking some great designer clothes. This is unfortunately the only image I have, but I might be able to whip up an alternate version, just for you. Bobby Blowfish. Season 12's Lighthouse Louie has a quick shot of SpongeBob eating a newspaper then spitting it out, and we get some nice callbacks to earlier episodes, such as a reference to the balloon animals and no free rides. Turns out on the newspaper there was supposed to be a name featured, this one being one Bobby Blowfish. So do we finally know Mrs. Puff's real name? I don't know, as during No Free Ride, she specifically makes note of having to change identities multiple times. But on the other side, we have the most obscure character in the series, Mo Blowfish. He shows up in the SpongeBob book titled Fearless, where he hosts a dangerous game show and is basically just a con man. or Con Blowfish. He's stated to be a cousin of Mrs. Puff, so maybe Bobby Blowfish is the real name? As far as I can find, this is the only info about this topic, so I leave it to you to decide. SpongeBob Town. Now this is really unknown, at least for Western audiences like me. Turns out, and I'm not kidding, there were plans for a SpongeBob MMO, or massively multiplayer online game, similar to stuff like World of Warcraft, that terrify me with its scary UI. This game was developed by Nick and Giga Media, a company stationed in Taiwan. This MMO was mainly developed for audiences in China, Korea, Japan, and Southeast Asia, with them claiming other markets will follow soon after. This was in 2013, and an earlier technical test ran from October 25th to the 27th. It supposedly would feature a quest-based experience and customization elements for the players to make their own characters. This is actually a really cool idea, and it even featured minigames like racing. Developed with the Unity 3D engine, this looks super promising. Only one minor problem: it's nowhere to be found anymore. Nothing about it releasing, and trying to go on the domain doesn't really do anything. From the few minor screenshots we get, this honestly could have been huge, but again, just unfortunately fizzled out. I don't even think it ever officially released at any point. For any viewers from the previously mentioned countries, or just anybody with knowledge about this, please leave a comment or something if you know. I really want to make a video on this, it seems really cool. Little Floater's Wild Weekend. This is a really interesting entry. So you know how we have episodes like Reef Blower that are practically all video and no dialogue? Reverse that and we get Little Floater's Wild Weekend. This is an entire audio-only episode of SpongeBob from 2004. It was released on the album The Q People, published by Spirit House Records. We have the original main cast voice actors, and we get some covers and rearrangements of songs. There's also a Tom Kenny interview about it that came with the CD, but other than that, we don't really know much. You want to know the really fun thing? Pause this video right now. The episode is straight up just on Spotify, but also come back since it's 17 minutes and I need your viewer engagement to fuel my ego.
I actually, as a stand-up, opened for NRBQ a few times, and it was awesome. It was a dream. They were one of the only rock and roll bands that were fun to open for because their audience had a sense of humor.
Best Friends for Never. So, in December 2022, this image was released on what I imagine was a Nickelodeon Discord. The wiki sadly doesn't give a source or which server it is. As the caption text implies, this episode would have been about SpongeBob and Patrick breaking up their friendship. We have a bit more info as well, as another synopsis says SpongeBob and Patrick learn that sponges and sea stars aren't normally friends, which tears their friendship and then all of Bikini Bottom apart. This episode was meant to be the 200th episode special, and in production codes 325, 929, and 930. This also would have been a part of Season 9. Eventually this got scrapped since the second movie was in production and later got replaced with Goodbye, Krabby Patty. I'd love to hear a little bit more about this, but there are no sources on the wiki, which is the only place I could find this. I'm not even sure if this is real, but you know what? I'll give it the benefit of the doubt. 100 million fans can't be wrong. This was a press kit released in the grand year of 2009 to support the show's 10th anniversary. It featured an 18 by 24 inch posters of all the characters that appeared up to that point, a copy of Help Wanted, a version of Square Roots, the story of SpongeBob SquarePants, which is just a little documentary about our favorite sponge, and a presentation DVD, and also a 12-page booklet of various celebrities endorsing SpongeBob, including fan favorite character from the last Iceberg, Barack Obama! The printing on the box was a black and gold style, with varnish, embossing, and even some gold leaf here and there. The name is in reference to two albums, 100 million Bon Jovi fans can't be wrong, and 50 million Elvis fans can't be wrong. Unfortunately, I can't even find like an eBay listing for it, so it seems this stuff was rarely handed out. The things you would do if you could have a time machine, huh? Okay, so Future Butan here, there's also a PowerPoint in here with some stuff, but nothing too crazy. I was actually able to get in contact with the artist responsible for the fantastic design, but he unfortunately didn't have a copy of anything to share, and even if he did, he likely wouldn't be allowed due to Nickelodeon. Well, at least we still have some images online. Fools in April hair error. This is a small error on Season 1's Fools in April. During the first scene of Mr. Tennis Balls trying to say sorry, for a few frames you can spot what looks like hair on the scene. Now Season 1 was cell animated, not digital, and cell animation to my knowledge has each animation as a separate image, hence why you can buy official cells online. So someone must have accidentally gotten a piece of hair on the cell, and now it's permanently embedded into any time Fools in April is shown. I wonder if there's any other errors of this type in Season 1, or just other cell animated shows. Battle for Bikini Bottom Scooby-Doo intro. Scooby-Doo's Night of 100 Frights was a GameCube, PS2, and Xbox game developed by Heavy Iron Studios. If you know your SpongeBob game trivia, you already definitely recognize that name. Known for their classics of the movie game and Battle for Bikini Bottom, Heavy Iron are heavy hitters. Some people found an old Battle for Bikini Bottom intro on the Night of 100 Frights, except it's very corrupted. Audio staggers out and a solid half of the video is just pure black. Now, I've seen a few different takes on this. On the Reddit post where I first researched this, one person claims this is for an Xbox and the stuttering is just from technical issues, but in the same post, someone also says the GameCube version luckily avoids all of these issues, but a re-upload of the clip claims the corrupted video is from the GameCube. I'm not entirely sure who to believe here, but we at least know this was featured in one of the console versions of Battle for Bikini Bottom. SpongeBob Twitter account Wyoming incident. The Wyoming incident was a supposed hijacking of a television broadcast. Believed to have occurred in the 1980s, some viewers even claim it gave them hallucinations. It's also probably helpful to note that this is just another creepypasta and it didn't occur, and seems to have been inspired by the real Max Headroom hijackings. But where this story takes an odd turn is on Twitter, February 18th, 2022. A small clip from the official SpongeBob Twitter account shows off the SpongeBob Binge Pants podcast, welcoming April Pinky Davis, storyboard artist. Enter Brian Koch, the unknown arbiter of something far beyond his calling. He replies, "Yay, a Pinky Tunes episode, can't wait to listen." Brian could not have expected what occurs next. The SpongeBob Twitter account replies with a gif of Mrs. Puff turning up the radio from No Free Rides, except for one single part. A single frame from the Wyoming incident is shown on the official SpongeBob Twitter account. They probably just didn't watch the whole GIF or see the frame of it, but it's just really funny. I wonder how many other minor slip-ups the SpongeBob social media team might have made. I mean, there was that one time the official account claimed we never saw SpongeBob's backyard, to which another account, SpongeBob Facts, responded and actually got the account to delete the original tweet. Dear Jesus. C.H. Greenblatt. Fantastic artist who made a ton of recognizable stuff. He was responsible for the outstanding style of Season 4's Fear of a Krabby Patty and is the creator of Chowder. But you know, neither of those are my favorite work. My personal favorite is this sticky note drawing by him. At the moment, there is no context nor storyboard or anything that features this. It just exists. And that's the context I think I'm happiest with. And that closes the curtain on this video. I hope I was able to share some more fun stuff about the nautical series I love. If I missed anything, and I know there's going to be some minor element I did, leave a comment. Again, thank you guys for just exploding the original Iceberg video. I'm still in shock of it. I consider myself a super fan of the series, and I still didn't even know a good chunk of these entries, so it's fun to have a reason to really examine the show again. Hope you had some fun with this video. Thanks for watching. I've been recording for an hour 40 minutes, dude, why?